Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Python on-ramp tutorial. The goal of this video series is to give you the Python knowledge that you will need for Math 365. And in particular, we're focusing on the things which we will be using in this course and other concepts which might appear in other Python tutorials we're going to try to mostly avoid in order to make this an efficient use of your time. So when watching these videos, I want you to do one of two things. Option one is to open up a blank copy of this notebook and type along as I type, and pause the video as you need to if I'm typing a bit faster than you or you need to catch up or something. Option two is to first watch the video passively, not typing along, and then look at the answers and type them up afterwards. So both of those are both equally good options, whichever one works better for you. So without further ado, let's get started. First thing to note is that we can use Python as a calculator. So I can type 20 plus 6, and then I press Shift Enter. Out pops 26. I can also do 20 minus 6, or let's say 6 times 3, or 6 divided by 3. Once again, to run these cells, I'm hitting Shift Enter. If I want to use powers, I use the double star operator. So 3 squared is 3 to the 2. And if I want to use parentheses, I can do it like this. So this is going to give us 3 plus 2 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Another thing worth noting here is that I have these lines here with the hashtags. Anything following the hashtag or a pound sign is a comment. Comments are not read by the computer, but they make it easy for other people to read your code. In particular, it makes it easier for the grader to read your code. And so it is important in all of your assignments that you add comments as appropriate in order to make it easy for the grader to read what you've got going on. And this, we'll talk more about this later. So in addition to just using Python as a calculator, you can store the results of computations in variables. For example, here is x3 equal 3, y equals 3.5. If we want to access these variables, we can print them using the print command. Or Python will automatically print the last line of a cell. So if I type x plus y, it'll automatically print that out, even if there's a few other lines there. So if I had x equals 3, y equals 3.5. However, if there's an assignment, something of the form variable equals in the last line of the cell, then there will not be a print of anything. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. The only change is I'm writing z equals x plus y. Nothing prints out. If we do want to see z, we can now print it out like that. And we note that we can also do other arithmetic operations with variables. So we got x minus y, x plus y, or x times y, x divided by y, etc. So that's the very basics of variables. The next thing we want to know is that variables have types. So I'm going to continue with the same example. I'm just going to retype it so that way you don't have to scroll. Of x equals 3 and y equals 3.5. What we can see is that if we print x, we get a 3 with no decimal point. If we print y, we get a 3.5. Now the type of x is an int, and the type of y is a float. So ints are the type of variable that Python uses to store integer valued numbers, i.e. the whole numbers, without a decimal point. Floats are numbers that involve a decimal point. If you want to convert between them, you can do it like this. I can say x new is float of x. I can take a look at x new, and I can look at the type of x new. And we see this is now a float. Notably, x new 3.0 has the same value as x. The only difference is that x new has a decimal point, x does not. If you want to convert from a float to an int, this is a bit different because Python needs to have some sort of rounding procedure to convert 3.5 to being a whole number. And the convention that Python follows is that it always rounds towards 0. So for positive numbers, it will round down. So if I say y new is int of y, take a look at y new. It's now 3. And the type of y new is an int. So that's a brief intro to numeric variable types. There also is interest sometimes in storing text data. I'm going to go through this quite quickly because we're not going to be working with text data a lot in Math 365, but I do want to show you a few quick things. So first, I've got s is equal to hello, and s2 is equal to world. You can put, you create strings by putting something in quotes, and notably, you can either use double quotes like in hello, or you can use single quotes like in world. They both will work the same way. Let's go ahead and take a look at them and take a look at their types. If you add two strings, then what you get is you get concatenation. In other words, hello plus world equals hello world. And a particularly useful example of this is for printing messages in conjunction with numeric data. So let's say I've got x is equal to 3. I can convert this to a string using str. And then I can print the value of x is plus str of x, and this will print there. Notably, if I do not include the str, this does not work, but you can get a nice, beautiful print message like that if you match the parentheses correctly. Now, a common source of confusion is confusing the string 3 with the number 3. And so a good example of this here is that we can take x equal to the string 3, y equal to 2. We can verify that the type of x is an int, and the type of y is, the type of x is a string, and the type of y is an int. And we can see x looks kind of like the number 3, but there's quotes around it. And what this means is that if I try to type x plus y, I'm going to get a type error. So if I want it, this is a common source of confusion that you should try to avoid. This line is bad. X plus y. Because you can't add an int and a string. It's also worth noting that you can access the individual letters of a string using square brackets. So here's a simple string, A, B, C, D, E. If I want the first letter, now this is an important thing if you're coming from some other languages, is that in Python, the first letter is S square bracket 0. In particular, if you've seen MATLAB before, you might expect that it would be a round parenthesis, and it would be 1. In Python for indexing, we start at 0, and then we use square brackets. If I want the second letter, then I would use S of 1. And if I want to get the last letter, I can do a couple of different things. First is I can check out what the length of S is. The length of S is 5. So then the last letter would be S length of S minus 1, S of 4. Or if I don't want to do that in 2 steps, I can do S length of S minus 1. But there's actually a quicker and easier way to do this, which is just to do negative indexing of S of minus 1. And I can also get the second to last entry with S of minus 2. Another useful property of strings is they've got lots of different associated methods. One that we're going to be using here is what's called the replace method. where a method is a function that's associated to a type of variable. So here I'm going to have a nice string, s equals ABC, ABC. And I'm going to say s dot replace lowercase a with a capital A. And we now see that all the lowercase a's have been changed to a capital A. And a sub trick that's associated with this is you can delete letters by replacing A with the empty string, where this is an open quote, nothing there, close quote. And we see that we've deleted all of the A's. So that's it for our first video in the Python on-ramp. So I will see you again next time.